Are news sources providing genuinely unbiased information, or just spinning things to meet a certain narrative objective? This question is often missed by many people, and especially those who may wake up to a favorable news channel every day with their morning coffee. At some point in the day, you'll probably share some intriguing information with your coworker about what you learned on TV. Shockingly, your coworker may answer back addressing the same news stories, but with a completely different spin and synopsis. How can that be? What we do know is that the more biased a news source is, the more likely it is to spread misinformation. With politics becoming intensely polarized, the average news consumer is more likely to be fed biased information. According to Gallup, 45% of people see a great deal of political bias in news coverage, which has nearly doubled since 1989. Additionally, 51% of U.S. Americans cannot name an objective news source. This very problem is constructed for many reasons, a major one being that the media is not careful in separating facts from opinion. Most news sources usually don't start out as biased outlets. As time passes, they gain a better insight into who their primary audience is and what they want to hear. It fundamentally comes down to what can be done to make the most profit. As more people subscribe to similar opinions, their outlet continues its growth and revenues. These news sources have various tactics they use in order to continue their achievement in producing biased information. One type of media bias is called spin. Spin is when the journalist strays away from objective fact or dramatizes certain parts of a story, aka putting a spin on it. Another type is called biased by omission, which is when a media outlet chooses not to write specific stories or leaves out significant information to fit its agenda. Next would be unsustained claims, which are when the journalist makes claims without the use of evidence. This is often seen in the article headlines to capture the viewer's attention. Another type is sensationalism, which is when the information is presented in such an exaggerated and shocking way to lure in the reader, aka clickbait. The last type that will be mentioned today is used heavily and occurs when opinions are presented as facts. Journalists and news anchors very specifically use this tactic to suggest subjective opinion-based statements are factual and objective. Given the previously mentioned information, a news source's primary job is to provide objective information, which then the viewer or reader can form their own opinions on. The issue is that news sources rarely do so. Fox News, CNN, and MSNBC are some of the most popular biased news sources from opposite ends of the political spectrum. On the other hand, AP News, NPR, and Reuters seems to be the most unbiased news sources. To add credibility to these facts, PBS, The Hill, and BBC have typically been shown to show the most unbiased independent world news. Beginning with Fox News, multiple sites claim that its content is generally right-wing leaning. Around 2/3 of Republicans and Republican-leaning independents, 65%, say they trust Fox News for political and election news. What contributes to this is that Fox News has unique ties with Republican political leaders. Republican officials often clearly target Fox News coverage as a political tactic. Additionally, CNN tends to contain news that is left-wing leaning. A Harvard study classified 93% of CNN's online coverage in the first 100 days of the Trump administration as negative that included personal opinion and author spin. On the contrary, news sources such as NPR are less biased in their language, political positions, and politician leanings when compared to other news outlets. They don't include as much inaccurate or fabricated information, but this doesn't mean that they haven't or occasionally won't. Similarly, The Hill is also more unbiased because of its inclusion of author expertise and cited evidence. Moreover, their writing tone is what helps their bias rating. They keep a neutral-centered tone when publishing any articles of any sort of news. Ultimately, it may initially seem that it's hard to tell if a news source is biased or not. Over time, once learn the different ways a news outlet constructs biased information, it can be spotted quite easily. Just remember, if you're hearing what you want to hear, it may not be factual.